over. This is Baxter, and this is the 5th video in the breathing series, How to Breathe, I am doing. If you haven't watched the other 4, I recommend doing that first. So, coming back into why we're here. So we have gone through that you should breathe through your nose, the kind of mechanics of the breath, how to breathe, your posture, and also that you need to be relaxed. So the last thing I want to speak about, there might be more videos, but I think this is it for now, is something that's going to be a little bit controversial in the yoga world. So breathing quietly is so important. And I think it's usually kind of a byproduct about doing when you do the other things correctly. So when you have a good posture, when you're breathing with your diaphragm, when you're breathing through your nose, and when you're relaxed, your breath will be quite quiet. But checking that your breath is quiet can be a good way to check that you are actually implementing those other steps correctly. So you might think that you're doing everything right, but actually your breath is quite loud, and you kind of take a few steps back and think, oh, okay, what needs to change? Yes, thanks then. So breathing quietly, I think, is just definitely a big step in breathing relaxed. The reason why it might be controversial in the yoga world is because we have something that we call Ujaji Breath, which is basically a restriction in your throat, so an engagement in your throat muscles. That means that the air is kind of being squeezed a little bit, so there will be some noise or a sound as you inhale and as you exhale. And it's meant to be quite quiet anyway, but as with everything in life, I think that's kind of step number something else, and to start with we need to understand how to actually breathe, and then we can deviate from the rules. Just like, for example, in the anatomy, like if I was teaching a beginner class, I would be quite strict about where to place your hands and where to place your feet, and making sure that the body parts are properly stacked and supported. Whilst if I'm teaching people who might have come to my classes for quite a while, or who's got quite a good body awareness, I would definitely recommend them to explore a lot more, moving around in their joints, seeing how it feels to have your knees falling in or falling out. Because when you have that awareness, you can then move away from the rules and the kind of form and structure, because you know what you're looking for, you know how to properly support yourself. And whilst if you're a beginner, going straight there will feel really confusing. You might not be able to properly support your body. And the same goes for your breath. So trying to straight away, going into your first or second yoga class, using an Ujaji breath or breathing loudly will be suboptimal, because we won't have the understanding of what makes a breath good. So don't add noise to it, will simply just make it worse. Whilst if you already have a good, stable, relaxed breath, adding a bit of sound to it is definitely a way to improve our awareness of it, increase our kind of mindfulness, basically kind of really pinpoint our awareness to the breath. Makes it easy to shut other things, other sounds or distractions out. But to start with, breathing silently is definitely key, because that will help us breathe more relaxed. So any kind of sighing, yawning, muttering is just suboptimal breathing, and it generally comes from us having either held the breath for a while, so kind of tensing up, or from not having a very good posture, so the breath kind of catches somewhere, or breathing up into the throat muscles, which again kind of just squeezes the breath slightly, which then creates a bit of a whistling or windy noise. So we'll try that for ourselves. You can kind of sit like this and just breathe through your nose. And see if you can make it super quiet so you can't hear it all. And then sit yourself up a little bit straighter. Just sliding your chin in as if your chin was a drawer, and you're just sliding that drawer back into its place. You want to keep it parallel. It becomes a bit easier to breathe into your belly, doesn't it? It becomes a bit easier to breathe silently. As you're kind of opening up the airways, the air can just freely flow. And once you've done that for a while, once you feel like your breath is relaxed, once you are able to breathe silently, you can then use Ujaji breath with that slight little restriction in your throat to kind of supercharge your breath and really dive in to breathe in that exact same way, but with a bigger awareness to it. But what we really don't want is for the breath to become a reason to tense up around the shoulders. So it's way more important to kind of breathe in a relaxed way and have our proper posture than it is to keep our awareness supercharged on the breath. So therefore, breathe silently, and if you can't breathe silently, then you need to step back and go through the other steps that we have gone through. And if you are just doing something else, like not doing yoga, not doing breathing exercises, and you notice that you are continuously yawning or sighing, or there's kind of a catching of your breath, then again, know that these are suboptimal breaths. And the same goes for snoring, suboptimal. So if that's the case and you notice yourself doing this, again, you can work through these little steps. Are you relaxed? Do you have a fairly straight and open airway? Are you breathing through your nose, etc.? And then once that feels comfortable and you are doing a specific breathing practice, whether that's yoga or meditation or something else, and you want to kind of play around with your Ujaji breath, go for it, making sure that you've already got that foundation, you've already got the understanding on how to breathe silently first, and then you can start to kind of veer off from it. I hope that makes sense. But it's just something that I notice a lot in yoga classes when I say take a deep breath and people go and that is literally everything but nourishing, relaxing, and actually deep. Max just hated that noise. He's like sitting in the chair and going, what was that? But yeah, so when you have that kind of, as you can see, like the whole chest starts to tense up and everything. So really, you want to let the air flow in towards you rather than forcing it in. And if there is a sound coming, you don't want that sound to come from your kind of nostrils, but rather from the restriction in your throat. Let me know as usual if you have any questions about it. But for now, in general, for kind of everyday breathing, for exercise breathing, i.e. breathing when you're exercising, kind of doing cardio, breathe through your nose, have a straight posture, breathe down with your diaphragm, really use this muscle here so that your belly is expanding when you're inhaling and drawing in as you're exhaling, thinking of the breath as an up and down motion rather than an in and out motion. And making sure that you are relaxed and breathing as silently as you can. And this also goes for when you're exercising. If you're doing cardio work and you're kind of doing an interval and you raise up a hill or something, yes, your breathing will be laboured, yes, it will be noisy, maybe it will be through your mouth, which is fine. But if you're just going for a jog, especially if you're going for a longer one, and you kind of want to just maintain the same pace, you want to just jog along, basically, breathe as silently as you can. And if you notice that your breath becomes really laboured and really loud, rather than breathing through your mouth or kind of accepting this is life, slow it down so that you instead are really focusing on training your lungs and your heart at becoming more efficient at getting the oxygen that you already have in out into your body and getting the carbon dioxide out of your body, so that we're not just over breathing, kind of flooding our lungs with unnecessarily amount of breath and overusing our chest muscles. So rather focus on good quality breathing rather than quantity. I hope that all makes sense, and I will see you all soon.